Hello, everyone. If this is actually there we go. Now it's recording. Hello, everyone. Welcome back. I'm joined by Jeremy Warner, who, is from Studio C. So, that's amazing. He also directed a movie, which is what we're going to talk about at the beginning, at least. How are you
Yeah,
doing?
I'm doing well. Yeah. Um, just just kind of a boring Friday. Um, took the kids to school. My wife is cooking some eggs, I think, so you might hear some sizzling in the background. But other than that, yeah, things are going all right. Getting ready to release the movie.
Yeah, I
So,
mean, it's a great movie. I watched it last night. It was really fantastic, and I do want to
oh,
start with that because I have a ton of other questions, but I feel like getting
yeah,
off the top, the thing that you're really here to talk about and that I think people should go watch is important. So I'm gonna start you with a very simple one. What was
yeah.
like, how was this movie conceived? Like, what was the inception of this idea?
So, initially, so when we started working on the movie's called Villains Inc. and it stars Colin Mockery, Mallory Everton, and Jason Gray. And ultimately, it all kind of started in 2018, I think. Yeah, early 2018. I directed a commercial for Purple Mattress, but it was for their seat cushion. And Colin Mockery was the talent in it. Um, and we got to know him uh, and kind of, tossed around some ideas of we'd love to work with you on another thing, you know, hopefully sooner than later. And so we kind of brainstormed and came up with the concept for Villains Inc. With my co-writers and sorry, pardon me, my co-writers Jason Gray, who's one of the cast members, he plays Kane, and then Matt Moen, who is also the producer. Um, we so we shot a proof of concept film in the summer of 2018, which is drastically different. Um, but uh, we shot that, showed it to some people, and showed it to somebody who would eventually become our investor. And then over the course of 2019, we wrote the script, and um, yeah, we went into production in February of 2020, and then there was a worldwide pandemic, and we had to resume production in February 2022.
Yeah,
So
the pandemic really delayed a lot of movies and really messed up a lot of people's ability to make movies.
yeah, it's it's definitely I mean, it's something we all experienced.
Yeah. And
It's a
now I was gonna, I
wonderful
had
frame
a,
of reference.
well, and I had a question about that, but like, I feel like it's so over talked about at this point, the effects that COVID had on movies. Like, yeah, they were delayed. So I'm not gonna ask you that. But if there is anything about
Yeah,
that process that you want to talk about or that delay that you want to talk about, then feel free.
yeah. Um, not there's not really too much that I'd say. Yeah, there was just like a full 2 year break in between. We shot about two-thirds of the film in 2020, and then we resumed it in 2022. Um, and I guess I'm just very grateful that you can't really tell. So like nobody really changed. And we were able to get the location. Some of the locations switched hands. Um, some of the locations switched ownership mid-pandemic, and so we had to track down different people when we resumed and stuff like that. But one of the guys who he they bought this like abandoned warehouse that we were supposed to shoot at the day everything shut down. And then 2 years later, I went over there just to look at it, and they had started kind of remodeling it, and there was a kid there sweeping, and I asked him, well, my friend Trey, who plays Captain Justice in the film, he asked that kid, is like, hey, who owns this place? And then he's like, I think it's this guy. And so he gave me their contact information, and I messaged them and was like, hey, I was supposed to shoot here, 2 years ago. And the initial answer was no. But then later on that night, I was at a Utah Jazz game, sitting there, and I
Uh,
get this text from that guy, and he's like, "You know, I used to work in film. Let's talk about this." So it it you know, little miracles and things like that worked out for us. And that guy actually, he used to work with when early on in the careers, he uh, was like a gaffer for Steve Yedlin, and so working with like Ryan Johnson and Steve Yedlin and Ron Bergman on um, all their early projects and stuff. So you just never
yeah.
know who's gonna help you out, I guess.
Well, it's yeah. Again, it's good. It worked out though.
Yeah. So, but
Now,
that's really kind of the only real kind of pandemic miracle thing. My
there's a
wife
lot
gave
of
birth
bad, I'm sure,
while,
in there too.
yeah, yeah. My wife went into labor one day when we were on set in 2020, so I
Oh
had to
wow.
leave for that. Yeah. And then we reshot like a few shots from when I was at the hospital, but you know, life. Life
Life.
happens, and
Yeah.
so
So now, when I was watching this, and I don't know, maybe I'm completely wrong on this, but I got some of the boys' feeling from this. I don't know, was that an intentional thing, or was that just kind of like a happy accident?
when we started it, I don't think the boys had not even come out yet. I don't think, and to be honest, I've never actually watched the boys because I didn't want it.
Really?
I didn't want to be. Um, I wanted to just avoid any like unintentional influence, if that makes sense, you know. Um, but I hear nothing but great things about it.
Oh, it's
So
amazing. And I'm
so
saying that in
I
the
I
nicest
I
way
I, I
possible.
yeah, oh yeah. I take it as a compliment for sure. So um, but yeah, I mean, ultimately, one of the biggest influences for me um, were Ghostbusters and Bottle Rocket. I don't know if you ever seen Bottle Rocket,
I've never
Wes
seen Bottle
Anderson's
Rocket.
first movie, because that's a story about three friends who want to be famous thieves, and they're just really bad at it.
So
And
you
they,
know what's interesting because you say Anderson in that vibe. You know what vibe I got, and you might again. This is meant as a compliment, and I don't know if you could take this
yeah.
as a non-compliment, but I got a lot of Tarantino vibes, early Tarantino vibes from this as well, which
Oh,
is yeah.
thank you. I, yeah. I mean, I love that. That's definitely
Stylistically, it
that's
felt very
definitely a
Tarantino.
compliment. That's definitely a compliment. Thank you. Yeah, I think well, the things that I love. I mean, Tarantino has been a big influence on everybody's career since he came on the scene. But the thing I love about Tarantino is like you can just tell that he really loves movies.
Yeah,
He just loves everything, and he watches everything, and that's something I've tried to adopt in my life because I think even though not every movie is like wonderful, I think there's something great about everyone. You know, even like when things the so bad it's good genre of things like
yeah.
The Room uh fits that category to a lot of people. I actually got to see a 35 millimeter print of The Room, um and some of those shots in it are just so like breathtaking. I don't know if Tommy Wiseau shot them, but they're really good. It's like the shots of San Francisco, and that they're just genuinely some really great blocking and things in The Room. um and there's something that you can learn from everything.
Well, that means you haven't seen Trolls 2 because that movie is probably the single from start to finish worst movie I've ever watched.
Troll 2,
Trolls 2,
the
yeah, no. The
uh the world
yeah.
tour.
No, the one
No.
before that.
Oh no, Troll 2, the um you're talking
I
about
don't
the
even
one
remember what
where
it's
they go to
called, but
Nilbog.
yeah, probably. I don't know.
Yeah. So dude, I watched that movie all the time growing up because it was on HBO in the mornings. And I will always remember the first time at the end, if this at the end of Troll 2, when the the trolls are eating the kid's mom, and then they turn to the camera and they say, Want some Joshua? But that movie was actually filmed here in Utah.
Wow.
Um, so
Well,
it's
there
a
you go.
great one. Yeah.
So,
So
well, I was gonna say the main character is named Cain. Now, my knowledge of the name Cain is, the origins of evil, so to speak, or and someone who should not be against the idea of killing people. Now, in the movie, I'm assuming this was intentional, but Cain
yeah,
does not like killing people. I'm just hoping that that was intentional and that wasn't like a happy accident. But
yeah, it's 100% intentional.
okay,
Like and like we set it up early on as well that he, with when he grabs the spider, he says that this is the world's most deadliest spider, but it's a pacifist,
yeah,
right? Um, Kind of foreshadowing the things that will ultimately happen because, I mean, spoiler alert, he's the only one that actually really kills anybody.
yeah. Yeah, it was that I was like I'm pretty sure there's no way they did this by accident. So, I was
Yeah,
like I'm pretty confident about that one. Now, you bring back a bunch of the Studio C original cast for this, right? From small
yeah,
cameos to being, two of the main leads. Now, one of the things and I don't know if if this might be different, but one of the things with movies is when you have people who are so known for one thing, right? Sometimes it's in movies as a certain type of character, right? Robert Downey Jr. for the longest time. I think Oppenheimer was the first time he ever broke out of that archetype, right? Tom Cruise kind of in the same
yeah,
area. You kind of don't buy them in these other roles. Sometimes it's hard to see past it. Like when you see Robert Downey Jr., it's really hard to see past Iron Man, right? So
yeah.
were you worried? And I know you're probably very close friends, so you won't obviously say anything bad about them. But like, was there ever a point where you were worried like this could go badly just because they may not be seen as almost, I guess, to say it in the most film snobby way possible, which is like serious actors, right? And were you
Yeah.
worried they wouldn't be able to be bought as those characters?
I wasn't ever worried about it. Because I know, I mean, I do know everybody that was in the film, and I've known them for years. And uh, I know how talented they are, and and obviously, I think there's always going to be a sense of um, trying to remove the image of somebody out of your head for what they're known for. Um, but like, um, there's just that like basically the Studio C fan base is this sliver of the world, and outside of that, many people don't know who any of these people are, and so for whether obviously we want to get that fan base in there, and hopefully it works for them, and hopefully that they enjoy it, and hopefully they can see past it. But then they're being introduced to everybody, the rest of the world is being introduced to these people kind of for the first time, or um, people might recognize Mallory from like just only a commercial that she was in, right? But on back to the note of like of Tarantino, him casting John Travolta in Pulp Fiction, it was one of those things that people are like, what, you know, getting cast against type or whatever. But I mean, ultimately, there's still it is a comedy, so there's that. But I think everybody's very good and very talented at just being a believable actor and saying things and delivering it a way that like to that character it is important and that they believe it. I know like when we would do when we were performing on Studio C, and even back in Divine Comedy, which was a sketch group that we were in college together. Um, Matt Meese, who plays Megadeth in the film, and many people watching or listening might know him as Scott Sterling, the guy who gets hit in the face by a soccer ball over and over again. Um, uh, but one thing we always would say was there was a show, I believe it was called Studio 60 on the Sunset Strip, and it was during that time when it came out at the same time as 30 Rock, I think. And they were both about productions of like a sketch comedy show. But 30 Rock was a very comedic version of it. And I think Studio 60 on the Sunset Strip was a more dramatic take on it. That being said, I've never actually watched Studio 60 on the Sunset Strip. It got canceled fairly quickly. But the thing I always remember is Matt said there was a moment in it where one of the producers or the director or something tells one of the actors, they're talking about, so one of the actors is talking about in their dress rehearsal, there's a line where she asks for butter, and the actor says, when I asked for the butter in the dress rehearsal, it killed, but when we did it live, when we performed it, it didn't. And then the person they're talking to responds with, that's because in the dress rehearsal you asked for the butter, and in the performance you asked for the laugh. um and so we would always ask for the butter, don't ask for the laugh, like, because if it's you know I guess to kind of put it into different words, um just making everything real to these people, to these characters,
Right.
um so that you know obviously the reactions and what they're doing I think is funny, but they don't think it is.
Right.
So
Now, I guess
I hope that answered the question.
no, it did. And I think kind of your initial point of like, and I think maybe I'm looking at this in a little bit of a different way because again, I was a fan of Studio C and I obviously grew up loving Studio C, and I literally dropped my phone when I saw the email that you know that you wanted to be interviewed by me, and I was like, this is a great day. But I I think maybe that I am looking through, but I was gonna say I think it worked. Like I think if even if you were worried about that, I think the result as someone who again knows these people from Studio C and has seen everything basically of with the original cast, I think that is something which I didn't even like. It was kind of in the back of my head, but it didn't really affect it because it was still comedy, I think, and that helps, right? You're not trying to
Yeah,
move them to this super dramatic, role, but it's still light and fun, so it feels a little bit like it works, I guess, in some ways.
yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, you look at, I know when Jim Carrey did Man on the Moon, people were really worried and concerned. And I haven't seen that movie. I mean, I was like maybe 12 when that movie came out. I don't, how old are you?
I'm 20.
20. You're so
Yeah.
young. You weren't even alive when that movie came out. That's crazy. Um, but yeah, I mean, when Steve Carell, left The Office and he was in Foxcatcher, people, there's always that fear that people won't be able to see beyond that. Or I remember Matt Meese was in a movie called Saints and Soldiers of the Void, and I remember that we were out to dinner together, and somebody came up and was like, "Oh, I saw you in that movie. I just could not take you seriously." And so that was always in the back of our heads, and it's not because Matt does a bad job, but Matt does a very good job. And it's Saints and Soldiers. The Void is a war drama, but to that point of like people not being able to see beyond you know the comedian,
Right.
and instead of seeing the character. Um,
And I don't
so
think that means you're a bad actor. I just think it just means that sometimes that is in people's heads, and that's something you have to
yeah,
consider. Like, I think what, again, Oppenheimer did really well with Robert Downey Jr. is they literally made him black and white. And I think that really did do a lot to, kind of make people not think Iron Man when they saw Robert Downey Jr., right? Like I think, and I don't know if that
yeah,
was intentional by them, but I think it did go a long way for someone like me who obviously, is a massive superhero fan and who obviously loves Iron Man and sees Robert Downey Jr. in everything as Iron Man, to see
yeah,
him in black and white, I think it helped me kind of take that away. So I think those are things you have to do sometimes, even if you're a talented actor.
yeah. Well, like the world of Villains Inc. It's a different kind of. it's an alternate reality of our Earth, right?
Right.
And so, with world building and stuff like that, that can sometimes help with things. But obviously, I think the fact that it also is a comedy and not like a straight drama
Yeah.
helps, and it eases you in at least. So, but yeah, have you seen Kiss Kiss Bang Bang?
Yes, I have. It's
It
one of
was
my
the
favorite Robert
Robert
Downey
Downey
Jr.
Jr.
Yeah.
I love that movie. So Villains Inc. We played at the Austin Film Festival, and I got to meet Shane Black, and then
Wow.
after I met him, I ran into him like six more times during that week, which is super cool because Shane Black he wrote and directed Kiss Kiss Bang Bang,
Yeah.
and he wrote and directed Iron Man 3,
Three. Yeah.
and so it was
Arguably the best Iron Man movie.
I love that one, man. It's so good. Um, and then he also wrote. So when I was a kid, one of my very the first VHS tapes I ever got. I bought two VHS tapes in like 1989, and it was Ghostbusters and The Monster Squad. And Shane Black co-wrote The Monster Squad with Fred Decker, and it was really great to. The first thing I immediately said to Shane Black was like, "I love The Monster Squad. You changed my life. Like, thank you so much. It was my favorite thing as a kid." And have you seen Monster Squad?
I haven't, no.
Oh man, you got to check it out. You got to
Okay,
see
I'll
it.
have to add it to the
It's so
list.
it's so good. It's really good. It's a great horror comedy about a group of kids that are obsessed with horror and obsessed with
Ooh.
monsters, and Dracula ends up in their town, and all like the classic movie monsters like Frankenstein's monster, the Gill Man, the Wolf Man, um, they all they all congregate in this small town, and it's up to these kids to save the world. It's really
Oh,
good.
wow.
And John Grease, who or Grise, I don't know how do you actually pronounce his last name. He plays Uncle Rico in Napoleon Dynamite. He's the Wolf Man in
Mm.
that movie, and so
Oh.
he signed my copy. I worked on a project with him, and he signed my copy of Monster Squad. And he wrote to Jeremy, "I sucked in this, John Grease." And I was like, well, I don't think he's. I don't think he sucked. I think he does a really great job. It's a very compelling performance for being, a wolf man in a horror comedy that's primarily targeted towards kids. Uh, like I said, very very influential and very life changing for me. So
Now, with that being said, we're gonna switch to a part that's less serious and more just about
yeah,
you and Studio C because, I mean, again, the Villains Inc. is great. Everyone should watch it because it is legitimately a funny movie, and it does have those kind of, parody feels like The Boys does to some extent, and the corporatization of superheroes and all that stuff. So I think that's good. I don't want to give too much away, but I think everyone should absolutely watch it. Now let's talk about Studio C.
yeah,
So how what was the origin point for Studio C? How did you guys all meet, and why did you decide that that was what you wanted to do?
yeah. So we all met in college at BYU here in Utah, um, and we were in a sketch comedy troupe that had been around for, oh man, I think this is the 30th anniversary of it. Yeah, it's a 30-year-old sketch comedy troupe at BYU called Divine Comedy. Um, and we were all in that at one point together. I joined in 2008. I got in with Whitney Call, and Matt Meese and Natalie Madsen were already in the group at that point. They joined in '07, and I remember meeting Matt and Natalie the year before because I actually auditioned three times, and I didn't get in until the third time. But I went to callbacks the year before with Matt and Natalie, um, and so I've known. I mean, what year is it? 2024. I've known them for 17 years, so
Wow.
which is quite a while. Uh, but um, yeah, we were all in Divine Comedy, and I was in it for 2 years. I graduated, and then I was just kind of working, doing production design on commercials and like some web series, just trying to make it in the film industry. Um, and then BYU has a broadcasting station. They have a channel that goes over satellite and cable and also streaming online at byutv.org. But BYU TV built a brand new facility, and they were looking for original programming because at that point, so BYU is associated with the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, also more colloquial known as Mormons. Um, and a lot of the programming was things about like Bible study or study of the Book of Mormon and and it was like more religious focused
Right.
material. And they were trying to branch out beyond that. And my friend from college, his name's Jared Shores, was a producer at BYU TV. And he went to a Divine Comedy show because Matt Meese had invited him to one. And he never came when I was in college, when I was in it, which is fine. But or maybe he did. I don't know. Jared and I go way back. We're really great friends. But Jared and Matt had a meeting after that, and Jared saw how excited like the crowd was, how engaged people were with the material that the group was doing, and that ultimately led to us in the summer of 2011 um, developing a pilot. They never called it a pilot; they called it a capture. I'm not entirely sure why, but anyways, so the summer of 2011, we kind of culled through a lot of the materials from everything that was done for Divine Comedy, kind of picked some of like the greatest hits, so to speak, and we filmed them, and and I'm very grateful to the fan base of Divine Comedy because we got to come to the taping at BYU TV, and the show was initially called Common Room, um, and there's like promos for it where it's like our heads cut out with a bunch of rubber ducks all around. It's really really interesting, and the set of the show. I think you can actually look it up on YouTube. I think the very first Shoulder Angel sketch that we shot for that capture on that initial set is up on YouTube now. But the set kind of looked like there was a show when I was a kid called Roundhouse on Nickelodeon, but it was like a sketch comedy variety show for kids before all that, because all that so like I would say like our capture felt like the Roundhouse, and then the actual show when we went into production felt more like all that, where it was like a set like three walls or a single wall, and not seeing the world of everything, um, of like the production, so to speak.
Right.
Not breaking the fourth wall. Um, um, yeah, so we shot that, and it got if I recall correctly, we shot that in the first week of November 2011, and I remember I was doing production design. I was a production designer on a web series called Dr. Fubalist, which starred Flavor Flav and Glozell Green, who that's how I met her. She's in Villains Inc. And I had to leave that final day because I would have to I would rehearse every night for that pilot, or the capture. Um, and so I'd leave for 2 hours every day and come back and like wrap out. But the very last day, I just was like, I can't make this. I'm going to do this capture. So roll the dice on that, and it worked out. You know, So I found out like a couple weeks later that we got picked up to series, and then we started shooting the first season in the summer of 2012, and then yeah, that's kind of how it all that's how it all went down. Uh,
Wow.
it
So
premiered, I want to say like October of 2012. Um, I remember because I moved into my uh, the house that I lived in right before this one on that day. So
so when you guys all started this, how big did you think it would get as big as it did?
um, no, no, but you always hope, you always go into every, or at least we should hopefully go into everything hoping for the best, and with the intention of working towards it. I had this discussion with my friend Billy, who plays Alex in the film, that every time you try to make something, you're gonna hope that it's going to be successful, but you have to know that it's gonna take work to do it.
Right.
Um, like you shouldn't like start a relationship with the intention of it immediately ending. Um, and relations sometimes relationships don't work out,
Right.
and sometimes success doesn't come in the way that we think it does, but you know we always want to we always want to push and strive for that success, but it was never expected.
So was it
um,
always meant
so,
to, because you spoke earlier about how, you at least it seemed at the time you wanted to be in the film industry, right? Was
yeah.
was it kind of a collective thing where it was like, I don't want to like diminish it, but like almost like in your minds, it was like this is a building block to getting there, and then did it turn out to be something where it's like, oh wow, this is really working for us. Let's stay here for a little bit. Was that kind of how it went, or was it more of like a you always like you were just waiting to go to like to kind of I guess move up to the film industry, so to speak?
um it's a combination, like, and I don't think it necessarily diminishes it, but like the answer is yes to both of those things, because we all have dreams, and it's hard for those dreams to come true.
Right.
And the bird in the hand is worth two in the bush. But we should always strive to also just grow as people, as individuals, as creatives, as whatever. And we all, and I guess I can only speak for myself here, but my goal and my dream has always been to make feature films, to write and direct feature
Right.
films. And but I also love comedy. I do like performing, but I do significantly less of it now because I want to direct more than act. Um, but I do like acting. Um, and it's not lost on me like how I'm very grateful for the opportunity that I've had in my life, and for the career, because I know like not many people get to do that or get to do this, or a lot of people in their 30s don't have a lot of close friends either, and I still have nine at the very least. I mean, I have more than that, but still, like the fact that there was so many things about Studio C that you just couldn't replicate, um,
Right.
because um, or you can, but it would be different, right? There's just something about the fact that we all were friends. We all started from the bottom and we climbed up together. And I'm so grateful that I had my friends there with me, because like on that, I remember, like I said, I was working on a web series called Dr. Fubalis, and and at the time I was kind of jealous that somebody else was making this um project, and I mean I was working on it, right, but it wasn't
Right.
like my baby. um but I I wouldn't have been ready for that. I Everything happens when it happens, and like yeah, like I wouldn't have been able to make Villains Inc. to the degree that I've been able to make it at any other time than when I did.
Right.
And everything comes to you when it does, and you have to sink or swim a lot of times. But the ability to to continue to develop a craft, develop an artistry, and develop working relationships with many people over those years helped inform what we would all do next afterwards. So um, I don't know that. I think that answered your question,
It did,
but
it did. So how hard was it then to leave Studio C, right? Because all the original cast kind of all, you know, quote unquote graduated out, and you know, they introduced the next generation, right? But how hard was it to make
yeah,
that transition? Because it was your baby, like you're kind of talking about. What was
yeah.
that like?
Um, it was. I mean, it was hard. I think the hardest thing is, stepping away from the from what you know into the unknown. We take that risk. Um, and like at the time, I had three kids, and now I have five. Um, but so I continue. It was hard. But then in some ways, it's. I guess it was hard, but I didn't want to look back on my life um, and wish that I had tried to do to make movies, to go beyond,
Right.
to grow in that regard. And so yeah, I mean the financial instability versus financial stability is, it's hard to walk away, but you try to plan and save, and just yeah, I guess that aspect of it was hard, but as but knowing what it was that you know what I had in sight, um, made it easier, I guess, because I knew that I could make sketches.
Right.
I and I know that I can act in a sketch, but I which is and I want to do that, and I like doing that. But I wanted to make movies and make more longer form things. And so when we left Studio C and started JK Studios, um, we made some longer form series, which is like Loving Life, which is a satire parody of lifestyle vloggers, and then um, Freelancers, which is the story of five friends running a video production company. That's called Video Production Company. You can check those out on YouTube. Um, I'm very proud of those things. Some of the best work I think I've ever done, um, and like doing it with my friends. So I think having my friends with me also made it easier. It's kind of a unity. We'll all lift where we stand. Um, you know,
Right.
you know, and there's nine other people that know what it nine other people who know what I've gone through and what it's taken to get there. Um, and yeah, like I not many people get that in
Right.
their life.
And I mean, look, it was a great your time there, the original cast time there was amazing. I mean, I enjoyed it. I know a
Yeah,
lot of people enjoyed it. And
yeah,
it's great to see you again making other things now. Um,
yeah. We all recently came back and did the 200th
200th episode.
special
Yeah.
episode. Um, and so that was nice. It was nice to actually kind of put a button on um, at least one of the characters that like I had created on the show, David Wayne Starr with a double R. Um, uh, yeah, and there's a lot of things. There's so many things that like I we made so many sketches on Studio C that sometimes people tell me about something and I'm like, I don't remember that, but I believe you.
So, do you have a favorite?
But so my favorite sketches, I think, um, that I was in and that I wrote. Um, I really like the Farley Archer series. I don't know if you saw that. Is a public access show in South Dakota because I grew up in South Dakota and I really wanted to just kind of make something that, well, like when I was growing up, I didn't really see anybody on TV that looked like me, um, or that looked like me that didn't have a heavy accent or something. Nobody talked like And then I also never saw anything that really took place in South Dakota. I was telling my friend this because we saw a movie yesterday and there was a trailer for Twisters. And I was like, Twister was the first time I saw anything that was remotely like my life in a movie because growing up in South Dakota. But yeah,
I don't think I've
yeah,
ever heard anyone say I've never Twisters really spoke to me as like my life story or anything. That's
yeah, man.
amazing.
You got to grow up in the heartland of America in Willow Lake, South Dakota, population 317. For the longest time, I had no idea how big Canada was. I just a very like middle American
Don't
boy.
worry, most of it's frozen, so you don't
Yeah.
can't even go. You can't even live there.
I I mean that's probably what it's very similar to South Dakota. I know they shoot Fargo in Alberta,
Yes.
the series.
Hmm.
Um and that's what
The
South
Last of
Dakota
Us
looked
too.
like. Oh, really?
Yeah.
I need to see The Last of Us. I
I
haven't
haven't seen
watched.
it. I haven't either.
I just know that they go to Salt Lake City at the end of the game, and I assume they go to Salt Lake City. I remember seeing a rendering of Salt Lake City, the Salt Lake City skyline from The Last of Us, and I was like, oh, they got that wrong. And like where this road doesn't exist. But it's only because I know the area. You could tell me anything about another city, and I'd be like, yeah, I guess.
Well, I'm sure there's a
Unless like,
few.
yeah.
So, I guess was there any of the sketches where you kind of maybe collectively were kind of like, I don't know about this. I don't think this one's gonna hit, and then it just turned out to hit.
Yeah. So I mean so it's funny that you say that this. So with your favorite sketch being Scott Stern, that's the one that hit, and we realized after a while we're like, oh yeah, soccer is the most popular sport in the world, and like it definitely didn't ever occur to me um, because simultaneously, right before that, our goal was we wanted just some kind of a metric based goal that we wanted to have one sketch that would hit 1 million views um, and the Hunger Games, I think Catching Fire was coming out at that time,
Right.
and um, we made a series of music videos featuring
Hmm.
like characters from the Hunger Games,
Yeah.
and that was what we thought it was going to be. We they developed this big marketing plan behind it all. I shot like a making of doc of all these things, which you can see all these things. They're all on YouTube. They're all on the Studio C YouTube channel. Um, and I'm sure they probably have 1 million views now. But um, at the time, it nothing had 1 million views. and then we were able to um like we were able to get the million views, but on Scott Sterling, So
You know, it's funny. So you say that Scott Sterling, your goal was 1 million views. As of now, 9 years later, 92 million views.
wow.
Your
Well,
goal was 1 million.
I know. And the thing is, like, we never knew that it would enter like the cultural lexicon. Like, anytime anytime somebody gets hit in the face by like pretty much anything, you will see a comment say Scott Sterling.
Yeah.
Um, and I'm in that sketch, but like, I'm the trainer. I'm not the guy getting hit in the face. But I remember being at Universal Studios, not even in the park, just in the gift shop outside because I didn't want to pay to go in, because I was just going to leave in like an hour. But I was looking at some Harry Potter wands for my kids, and this kid just walks up to me and was holding his phone. Is like, "Is this you?" And it's a picture of, and it's the Scott Sterling video, but it's frozen on my face as I'm running out. I'm like, "Oh yeah, that's me." Um, but the it just that blew up, and it just raised the profile of the show, of the network, of everybody. Um, the old saying, when if your boat's in the water and the water goes up, all your boats rise, right? Um, and that rose all our boats. Um, very 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 crazy. But outside of that, I'm trying to think what else. Because like after that, kind of everything everything changed, and it was like this the fan base and like the views and stuff just were kind of the same. Not the same, but like nothing is like Scott Sterling, but that level, it leveled it up. Um, and I don't know if anything really was that surprising or that big and impactful outside of that.
So
Um,
so when Scott Sterling happened like it did and it blew up. So you obviously made multiple, I guess, quote unquote sequels to that sketch, right? You
yeah,
did the volleyball one, you did a few of the other ones.
yeah.
Was
There
that
was
does
a
that that was intentional, right? Just to try to like build on that?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, the volleyball one is a. I mean, that was a great, like. I mean, it made sense. Like, people get hit in the face more in volleyball more than other things, um, and also it's more of a niche crowd, like volleyball fans and stuff. It's not. I mean that in the sense it's not American football or baseball or basketball,
Yeah.
right? The like the big three sport, like professional leagues that we have in our country, in the United States. I guess in Canada you don't have any football. There's no NFL up there, but
No.
you got the Raptors,
Yeah. Oh
and
yeah. That's what we
you
want.
guys
We want the
you guys won a championship, man. That's crazy. That
yeah. We
we
haven't
we
done
we,
anything
we,
close
we
since
still
then.
haven't. Well, I mean, we never have. So
Well, you had
the
Carl
Utah Jazz.
Malone and you
Yeah,
had Donovan Mitchell.
stock Donovan Mitchell. Yeah, I got
Those
to
two
see
eras,
Donovan
I
Mitchell
mean.
play a ton. Yeah, yeah. Waiting for the next. Kelly Olynyk was so good for
Hey, he's on
us.
R2 now.
I know. And Ochai is
O
great.
Oshai called
Um,
Toronto the new New York. I loved it. I love the guy. He's
oh really?
great.
Yeah. Those guys, you guys got two of our finest. Like, but Kelly's from Toronto
Yeah, he's
anyway.
ours.
So
He came back home.
so yeah. Anyways, what was I saying? Oh, volleyball. Yeah, that was yeah, it was intentional to you know build, because it was a very popular character. People wanted to see it again, and what context could we do it in? Um, yeah, Matt Meese has a very famous face for getting hit.
Did he actually get hit
We
in any of those?
Yeah, so in the close-ups, there was we got like a soccer ball, like those like really kind of soft inflatable dodgeballs.
Right.
Um there was one of those and we would just hit we'd throw it at his face in the close-ups, like the slow-mos and stuff. But any other one, it was just a digital double of a ball hitting him. But like when it's like actually like moving his face and stuff. We got the so this is a fun fact. The cops got called on us 3 times when we were shooting that
What?
first Scott Sterling sketch because we had to shoot it. We shot it in the middle of the night because it takes like 12 hours, or, anywhere between 6 to 12 hours to shoot something. And we shot it at night, and people kept we got a lot of noise complaints and stuff because there was an actual crowd there going, woo! It's like 3 in the morning. And yeah, but I distinctly remember the police showing up. And also like the Scott Sterling and the soccer and the volleyball ones were sketches that, like, I guess from like a production standpoint and from like a smaller thing, uh we were uniquely set up to be able to like shoot things like that because BYU TV, obviously BYU is a college university, there's college sports. We had all the access to everything that you would need to create
Mhm.
a convincing broadcast,
Right.
like a real, like, convincing um, sports broadcast. And so that, and then I don't know the exact reason why we made the Yale Bulldogs. I know it's because there was, I mean, BYU, there's Y's everywhere. I don't know why we didn't just say it was BYU. Now that I think about it,
Who came up with the Scott Sterling idea? Like initially, who brought it to the
it was
table?
Matt Meese, and I believe that he might have pitched it a couple times before, and I think it was one of like the low rung things that we kind of shot, didn't know too much about, or like it was, I think it like kind of barely made the cut to for production. But it did. And then like all the commentators are Jason Gray and Stephen Meek.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure how much, like, because I don't know if the original script had all that commentary in it. Now that I think about it, I'd have to find it on my computer. I know for the volleyball one, it definitely was there, but for the initial soccer one, I'm not quite sure. Um, but yeah, I remember
So
like running back and forth in real time from this sideline out to the goal. Um, when you have to do like so many, I'm the only one in that sketch that runs. Everyone else just kind of kicks it. They walk to their spot and kick it. And I had to do multiple takes of just like booking it out there and checking them out. Um, and like I said, it was the middle of the night. So,
now, do
but
you have a favorite sketch that you pitched that was like, whether regardless of the result, like was there one where you kind of like were like, this is gonna be amazing, we have to do this?
um, not any that I can think. I'm trying to think. Like you're talking about like one that I can tell you one that like I pitched that I was like, I know we'll never do this, but I love it.
Which one?
And
Or
it
what
was
would it be?
well, I mean, we never did it because um it was a sketch about people, a family getting in their van, and they're like, all right, we have all our treats and everything. All right, now time for the they're going to look at Christmas lights in their van as a family. But it happened due to a scheduling error. It happens to coincide with the night of the annual purge where all crime is legal. And so they go out and look at all the Christmas lights while the purge is happening all around them. And because they didn't want to break tradition. And they ultimately get home, and Santa tries to kill them, and they they stop Santa. Obviously, that didn't get made, but I thought it was very funny. I really like the Purge movies. I think they're some of the funnest horror things, and it's a fun concept to play with. And I think there's going to be, I think that series has a very potential to have a very very incredible film someday.
Yeah, I
I
mean,
think they're all pretty good already, but like
there's
I
so
think
much
there's going to be a
potential with that
banger.
concept which they try, and I think the first Purge actually was like the in my in my opinion the best use of that concept.
Yeah,
I think, or like the best conceptual, like the best kind of concept out of that concept, if that makes any sense. And I think the
yeah,
film itself fell flat, but I think that kind of idea was the right one.
yeah. I really loved Election Year. I thought that one was awesome. Be cool because it was it's the only one where you follow another, where a character
Right.
crosses over to the next one.
Yeah.
You're following Frank Grillo. Um, but I'm trying to think outside of that, what other things have I today? I don't remember. Hold on, I'm just gonna pull it up real fast on my computer. Sketch it.
Yeah, because there's so like I have this playlist of
Oh,
like Studio C sketches
I
that I just go
know
to.
I know one that I really loved that I was like, no, we got to do this, and I fought for it, and I was like, can I direct it, please, and let me do this, and it's the one, it's the 1 millionth where Stephen and Natalie are in the hospital with like a dying parent, and the guy dies, and they pull out the giant death certificate because he was the 1 millionth death at the hospital,
I
and then
remember.
they keep getting surprised by everything they everything that happens after that is like a milestone thing, and so everyone keeps coming in with giant versions, like a giant medical bill, a giant death certificate, a giant parking violation, um, and ultimately culminating in it's just piling on these people at the worst time in their life, and then finally the giant life insurance payout check, and then they all celebrate at the end, and they Weekend at Bernie's the dead guy. um, I haven't seen that man for a while. I hope he's still alive. I don't know if he is, because he was pretty old at the time, and there's a full pandemic in between, but um, I know that's one. uh, it's darker, but it's, I mean, I tend to gravitate more towards things that are a bit darker or a bit more um, just this sad reality of things, and be like, isn't this crazy? We put up with this. This is funny. Because sometimes all you can do is laugh about it.
Well, and it's better. Like I feel like the best comedy is making when you make comedy of dark situations. Like I think that
Yeah.
works really well.
Outside of that, I have a. Where is my playlists here? Oh, that's content. Oh, or channel.
Yeah, there's so many great ones. I love the
There's
series of the
so
worst
many.
ever.
Oh yeah. Uh, uh,
Because
Worst
then there's
waiter ever. That's what.
worst waiter, worst doctor, worst teacher, worst
Yeah.
lawyer.
I I cut my hand on. There's a scene where I shove my hands into a pitcher in the worst waiter ever,
Yeah.
and I cut my hand because I ran over and shoved it in there too fast, and it got cut. And so like there's some shots where I have a band-aid, somewhere I don't, because midway through uh, I got a cut. Um, I directed the Bad Karma sketches. I really love doing that. Those are really fun to do. Um, yeah, what have I pitched that? There's
What
so
were
many
some of your other
things.
ones, favorite ones
There's
to direct?
I really love directing. I love directing The Truth About Running, which is kind of like an anti-drug PSA, but about distance running. I directed the Breaking Bad parody, Fixing Good. Um, uh, I'm proud of that one. I'd never watched an episode of Breaking Bad, uh, so I when I got assigned hired to direct that, I binged the series just to kind of know like what it visually what it looks like, how to capture that tone and stuff. I really love the Home Alone one where like another one where we shot it in the middle of the night and um, uh, that one was really fun to do. And I really loved what is it? Um, there's the one where James is it's a infomercial where Perry is trying to sell his book about productivity.
I remember that one.
And I like that one. I think it's like 24 hours of productivity or something like that. Um, there's the one where Stacy plays the character, the Stacy movie, where Stacy plays every person in it, and it's like a film noir film. There's just a lot of things about it that I think are really funny. Like I distinctly remember like he's knocking on the door, then he pulls his hand away, but the knocking keeps going. But
Now,
yeah.
when you look at a sketch like, and I don't know if you even remember this one, but the 5 day weather forecast, right? Which was,
Mhm.
about 10 years ago, whatever. When you look back on it now, is there a point where you just kind of look at it and you're like, damn, I really wish we weren't this accurate about what's going on right now? Like, do you wish like do you kind of feel like, wow, we either predicted it or you know, it just becomes more and more relevant every day and less funny?
Yeah. Yeah, I don't really I know everyone always says like the Simpsons kind of predicted everything. Like so much of what the Simpsons a joke from the Simpsons w- comes to fruition in reality. But yeah, I never really thought to give too much thought about things that we had made jokes about that eventually came true. I do know this. So one thing, so when we were on as JK Studios, we were on a show called Bring the Funny, and I had written a sketch for that we would have done in the final round if we had made it that far, but we didn't. But it was called Search History Trial, and we actually filmed it. I believe you can watch it on the JK Studios channel, JK at Dry Bar um, sketch series. But it was somebody who is on trial for murder, and they're trying to um, their lawyers arguing that he has an alibi and all this stuff, and then they pull up the search history of what the person was searching for at the time of the murder, shortly after, and it's like blood stain in on the back seat, how to remove, what to do with dead body, all these things, and like 6 months ago, somebody went on trial and they were actually convicted because they were searching for those things because they went into their search history because they were trying to figure out how to cover up their crime.
So
So that's something that happened. Um, but yeah, I distinctly remember one thing that we got like pretty wrong. Like there's one sketch that we did because we would shoot for Studio C um, ahead, like we would shoot it and then it would come out and be released, 4 or so months later. And we did one that was like the Democratic National Convention or the Democratic debates. And there's Mallory's clearly Hillary Clinton, but then Jason is somebody, and I'm like, who was he supposed to be? because it was who people thought would be a front runner at the time, but then just disappeared. Like in retrospect, like, oh, that should have been Bernie Sanders or Joe Biden or somebody, but it's just somebody else. And like when it actually came out, and even right now, as I recall it, like I don't know who he was supposed to be, but it was somebody that we thought was going to be a bigger deal as far as the political climate goes. I think the international relations when
Yep.
at the grocery store, I
I
feel
love
like
that
that's
one.
pretty. I feel like a lot of that remains the same. Um,
The other interesting one actually was,
and
and
oh,
I think,
and when they're fighting over the parents fighting over America.
yeah. Well, I was gonna say the other one, which I think you would probably find funny now, especially right because you're a basketball fan. So with sports betting and the rise in that and the betting on friends going too far, that there goes too far that
Oh yeah,
stretch, right?
yeah.
Because you look at now kind of the betting culture, um,
Oh, it's so prevalent. There, DraftKings, all that stuff.
I mean, I don't know if
It's
you've heard,
everywhere.
but there's a soon to be former Raptor who bet on himself and literally and
Oh
Jonte Porter, yeah.
yeah, I saw like yeah, because he makes the three, and then you can tell that he's like, whoa, he's like
Yeah.
upset that he made it.
And then he goes out like five
Yeah,
minutes in, he placed a huge bet on um, his unders and it's yeah, so he might get banned from the NBA. So that's always it's a fun, nice storyline for the Raptors
yeah,
disastrous season.
yeah. Well, and then there's what's uh the Netflix series Untold. There's the one about the ref that was
Right.
fixing games.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
can't remember his name,
Guy gets
but
banned, yeah. He got banned from the
yeah.
NBA. Yep.
I met a ref for one of the G League refs here in Utah. He's a big Ghostbusters fan, and he was
Wow.
cosplaying as a Ghostbuster at our Salt Lake Fan X, which is like our Comic
Right.
Con. But but yeah, basketball, man, I love
So
basketball.
who are you rooting for right now? Or who do you think is gonna get out?
Mm, I think Boston will go to the finals on the East, and I want because they've got Rudy Gobert and Mike Conley and Nikhil Alexander Walker, because they basically the Donovan Mitchell Jazz, but with Anthony Edwards. I want
Yeah.
the Timberwolves, and as a kid that grew up in South Dakota, I think that'd be really great.
So you're not bitter
I
about the
remember,
fact that they gave you a ton of stuff for Rudy Gobert, probably the biggest draft or trade
yeah,
fleece of all time
oh
from
the
the
yeah,
Timberwolves side.
there were five. I think we got five players and five draft picks. I think
Yeah.
Walker Kessler's great.
Walker Kessler
Um,
was like is basically Rudy Gobert but younger and cheaper.
yeah, and yeah, he's a great guy. My friend worked the All-Star games last year, and he said Walker, because he wasn't 21 yet, so he just went to all the parties and just like kind of sat there. It was like because he couldn't drink or do anything. It was just a nice young man drinking water at a party. Uh, but yeah, I I want the Timberwolves, I think, to win it all. Uh, just because I wouldn't be upset if the Bucks won as well, because I think Damian Lillard winning would be wonderful.
As long as not in your
And
conference.
yeah, yeah. Um, yeah, I mean the Jazz are straight up eliminated,
So are the
but
Raptors.
I
Woo!
yeah, go teams.
Yeah, I know.
Uh, I took my son. I went to the yeah, because you guys got rid of. You don't have Ananobi anymore, do you?
No, we got RJ Barrett and Emmanuel quickly though, so we're good.
Oh yeah, you say you send him to the Knicks. Yeah, the Knicks
Yep.
are way better now too, because they also got Boyan Bogdanovic, who's
Yeah, I
great.
hate the Knicks so much.
Yeah.
Uh, I hate the Knicks so much. Boston and the
um,
Knicks, I just can't with them.
yeah. Um, yeah, I wouldn't mind Bucks winning, but I think right now I would bet on the Timberwolves. I
Is there
think
a team you
they're a
absolutely
very
would not
composed
want
team.
to get to the finals or win the finals?
The Warriors.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. Is it just why, man?
Dray,
Why?
Dray, uh,
Draymond?
Draymond.
Yeah, that's fair. That's very valid. You don't want him punching people in the face, and you don't think he should be rewarded for that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
understand that. He did try to
But
kill multiple NBA players.
yeah. I wouldn't mind also seeing the Thunder go to the finals.
I
I
want
think
the
they're really
Thunder to
great.
go. I want the Thunder to win it all. I'm rooting for either the Thunder or the Nuggets just because the two-star Canadians. So I
Oh yeah,
at this point,
SGA.
yeah, and Jamal
What
Murray.
Jamal Murray is Canadian. Yeah,
Yep.
okay. Yeah, I got to see because every year in Salt Lake City they do the summer league before the
Right.
week before they do the
Yeah.
Vegas one. And so we actually my family and I got to see Chet Holmgren in his first professional game
So
and
how
he
small did he look?
annihilated everybody. Oh, he's so much taller than us.
Yeah,
He's
that
like
man is crazy.
he's so lanky. He's like if you just stretch Kevin Durant and changed his skin tone, like the way that he shoot, like his game is very similar. Is his mid range shot. Um, and then I don't know. You saw this meme right after that first game in the summer league. Somebody took the NBA logo but replaced the Jerry West logo with a shot with an image of Chet Holmgren's leg
Yeah.
because it's so small. And then I was like, when he hurt himself in like a pro am game against LeBron James, I was like,
Last
yeah,
year,
man,
yeah.
he needs to bulk up. But I'm super happy and super glad that like that year off that he healed and like put on some mass and that he hasn't been riddled with injuries.
And then
Um,
there's Victor Wembanyama who comes in and like twists his ankle and then pops it right back up and keeps going. And it's like, oh
yeah,
wow.
dude, that guy's crazy, crazy tall. I wish I would have gone to see the Spurs Jazz games here because I would have just loved to see Wemby play. Um,
Yeah.
but
I
yeah,
don't think anyone expected Wemby to be this good right away.
I know. Yeah, I mean, I love they play basketball in Villains Inc. So,
Yes, they do. They do.
so they're not good at it, but
Much like both the
it's
teams that we support right now. So, it's okay.
yeah, yeah, you know, it's
Now,
all
last basketball
it's
question for
cyclical.
you.
Yeah.
Do you think the Jazz are going to trade Laurie?
Oh man, I really hope not, man. I have
Really?
I don't I love that guy. He's great. Well, we'd have to get something really great, I think.
So like
Um,
multiple picks, or do you want like actual young guys?
um, at this point, I feel like we have so many picks that I don't know if I'd want multiple picks. I'd probably want like a just like a equal equal or better player, you
Would you
know?
trade Laurie for Trey Young?
No.
Wow. That is that is a very high. I mean, Trey Young's not very good, but still, you know.
Yeah. But I would maybe trade, I don't know. I don't know who I would trade right now. I think look I think Markkinen has I think he has the size and he can shoot, which is not something he's like a Rudy Gobert that's a shooter.
And not as good
And
defensively.
yeah, and then you have Walker Kessler who is like Rudy Gobert but younger.
And then you have your young guard combo
Keontae,
who
yeah,
well, you
and
have Keontae, you have
Sexton.
Colin Sexton, you have do you have THT still?
We do, yeah. I mean, I would maybe trade THT for Trey Young, but I don't know if
I don't think it was
I don't
that
think
was
you'd
like a
get it.
3 year ago conversation. Yeah.
Yeah. I think THT is Good. Um, there's I don't know who I would trade. I'm glad I'm not a basketball. I'm glad I'm not Danny Ainge.
Oh yeah, you stole
For
him for the
have
Celtics. Yeah. Forgot about that.
Yeah, for having to I mean, I guess I wouldn't mind being Danny Ainge for the celebrated career and the skills and the talent.
Yeah. No, this is
But
the
like,
times I'm very happy
but
I'm
I
not in the front office.
wouldn't want to be like a big decision maker. But also, like, I mean, they probably have far more understanding of data and analytics than I do. So
I
just
just want
trust
my
the
team to
process,
win.
as the Sixers say.
Oh yeah. Now look how well that's worked for them.
Yeah, Embiid. Embiid just
I
signed with Skechers.
I know.
Did you know that?
I just want my team to be good, man. I just
Yeah.
want to be winning again.
You had Kawhi for was just that 1 year, right?
One
Came in
year.
as like a
Never
ringer.
yeah. Won us a championship and now we suck. We have Scotty now, so
I mean, yeah. People, there's a lot of mean memes about Scotty. I see
yeah.
very mean.
Yeah.
Um,
Because he is passionate, so he's autistic, right? That's how it works,
yeah,
I guess. I don't
yeah.
know.
It's like there's nothing wrong with autism, but it's also there's something wrong with using it as like a derogatory thing.
Yeah, yeah. It just this is what happens when you're great. That's what I'm gonna
Yeah,
take it as.
yeah. The kid was he rookie of the year?
Yep. 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 Rookie of the year. First all-star of the group of the people drafted his year.
Yeah, he's good.
And if
So
everything
like
goes according to
I
plan, he's gonna be the first one to get out of the first round from his like
nice.
group. Unless the Magic or Cavs or um
The Magic. I forget the Magic are good now.
I know I hate it.
They were bad for a long time.
I know I liked when they were bad.
Yeah. One thing, this is one thing I will say about basketball, and like just sometimes about just like life and career and just everything. Sometimes we think that the grass is greener on the other side or whatever, but we go over there and it's like, oh, it's the exact same thing. Like Donovan Mitchell leaving it, and not that he did this intentionally or whatever, but like we were what a fifth seed in 2022, get eliminated first round. He goes to the Cavs, they're fifth seed in 2023. They get eliminated first round. It's like sometimes the exact same thing's going to happen.
Well, and you guys blew the 3-1 lead to the in the bubble to the Nuggets.
So Nuggets,
Yeah.
we blew. We blew a. No, I guess it was only a 2-1 lead. Dude, I was at that. I went to the playoffs when we were against the Clippers.
Oh, in the
Oh,
conference
that
finals
was semifinals.
or semifinals.
That was
Yeah, yeah.
yeah. Uh, it was heartbreaking. It was very frustrating.
That was a good season
Um,
for you guys too. I thought you guys were gonna win.
we were the number one. Yeah, we were actually favored to win. We also I will say that I'm very glad I took my whole family to um, I took my whole family to the Jazz Mavericks playoff game, which is the last game that the Mitchell Gobert era won,
Right.
and it capped off like it couldn't have ended better. It capped off on an alley oop from Mitchell to Gobert with
And that's
like
when all the
three
stuff, the
seconds
rumors were
left.
coming out about Gobert being like and Mitchell hating each other and all that
Yeah,
stuff.
and then they don't pass to each other. What could have been? I think if we ran it back one more season, I think we would have. I think we could have done it,
Well, let's see what
but now
Gobert
we
does in
don't
the
know.
playoffs because Gobert in the playoffs is a question mark always. As when the Clippers, took out their
Yeah,
center and torched you guys.
yeah. They got they made it to the second round last year, right? The Wolves.
They no, I think they blew the lead in the first round. I don't think they made it out of the
Oh,
first round.
oh man.
Yeah, it was a
Yeah.
rough time for them.
I'll tell you. I'll tell you who's going to be scary next year. If Steven Adams and Ja Morant
Memphis.
are healthy again.
Can John Morant not try to shoot someone?
Yeah, I love Ja Morant. I think he's such a fun person to watch. Questionable,
As long as he doesn't
you
try to
know,
be cool and use a
things.
gun against someone, then we're
Yeah,
good. Then you can play, you know?
yeah. Just take his guns away.
Yeah.
I
Lock the
actually
bullets
have
away.
in my cupboard over here. I have a box of Ja Morantaroos, which are Ja Morant branded Dunkaroos.
That actually
And
works really
during
well
the
because
uh, and then during the All Star weekend, there was a life size Ja Morant ice sculpture in Salt Lake City.
that's funny.
Um, yeah,
Maybe John
basketball
Morant will come
man.
to the Jazz.
I would welcome that.
Yeah.
I think I think I think people would love him here.
I think
he's just a fun person.
just get him out of
He
Memphis, Nothing against Memphis,
yeah
just, change of scenery.
yeah, that'd be better.
Now, with that being
Uh,
said, I've taken up enough of your time, so I appreciate you talking to me today. Um,
yeah,
Everyone needs to go check out Villains Inc. It's in theaters on the 19th, I believe, here. All the details will be in the description of the podcast or the YouTube description or wherever you're watching this or listening to this. You can follow Jeremy on social media. I followed him last night. You know,
oh, thank you.
yeah. And I will tag you endlessly. Don't worry when this comes out and all the clips and stuff, so you will see that. Don't even worry about that. And we got to have you back on at some point because we went through this whole thing and we didn't talk about movies like other movies basically at all. And I know you know I'm sure there's stuff we could talk about there. So gonna have to do this again.
Yeah, yeah, I'd love to. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you for coming on again. It was amazing to talk to you. I hope you had as much fun as I did. That was the goal at
Yeah,
least. And if you have,
we
and
did
everyone
it.
who's seen Studio C, go watch Studio C as well. Go watch that stuff. Go watch Villains Inc. Go watch everything. It's all great,
There's a lot of time you can spend watching things that I've made. So
and you should do it. Just that's all you should do.
yeah, it'll bring a smile to your face, hopefully.
Absolutely. Well, thank you everyone for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, do all that stuff people tell you to do. Share this with your friends and whatever else. Okay. Bye.